Welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host. I'm Darlene Childress. I'm a life and parenting coach. And on the podcast, we have been working through a series that I've called How to Heal. And I've been walking you through what I'm calling the hierarchy of healing. This is a 6-part series. This is going to be episode 4. So if you haven't listened to the other ones, you may want to go back and listen to Radical Self-Love, Radical Trust, Radical Honesty. This is Radical Listening. And I recommend you do that because really each of the parts of the hierarchy of healing sort of require the previous pieces in place. So for example, if I want to heal from a negative pattern of yelling at my kids or overeating or hyperproductivity or people pleasing or any of those things, I'm going to need to start from a premise, from a foundation of self-love. If I use shame as a whip or self-hatred or self-loathing as a tool to get me to change my behavior, I'm not going to experience the freedom and the wholeness that healing brings because I'm really just masking pain. And I'm using self-loathing or self-hatred to get me to act better. None of us really want to act better. What we really want is to feel better, right? We want to feel freedom. We want to feel joy. We want to feel gratitude. We want to feel peace. We want to feel calm. We want to feel security and safety inside of ourselves, kind of no matter what's happening. We want to feel present. That's really what healing is. And we can't really heal from something unless we start from that belief that I'm good enough, I'm worthy, I'm lovable, I'm enough. Then from there, I can start to practice feeling safe with myself. All right, I'm going to tell you some things, Darlene. And in this process, I need you to trust. I need to trust that you're not going to hurt me. I need to trust that you're going to be kind. I need to trust that you have my back. That's why trust is this secondary requirement in the hierarchy. So we start with self-love, we go to trust, and then we go to honesty, right? Because I need to be honest with myself about my pain or about my patterns that are there to either prevent pain or to cope with pain. I won't be honest and look at those if I don't feel loved and safe. So that's why we have to feel loved, we have to feel safe, then we have to be honest. Now, this episode is all about listening. The conversation that you're having with yourself is really this kind of core self, the one that's enough, the one that is loved, the one that is beautiful, the one that is perfect, having a conversation with the parts of you that show up in a way that you don't love anymore. Like you love yourself, but you don't like the way that you're acting, and you don't like the way you're feeling, and you don't like your thinking, your stinking thinking. So you want to find a way to heal and come together and change some of these negative patterns. So we look like I'm honest with myself and then I listen to myself, all with that foundation of I trust myself, I'm safe with myself, I love myself. So these key pieces of love, trust, honesty, and listening all go together. And I've broken them down in these episodes. So today's all about listening. Now, remember the series, the goal of this series is that I want you to learn to be kinder to yourself. Wouldn't that be nice? Just that. It's like, why do we have to be so mean, especially as women? We're constantly, our inner critic, our inner monologue is on fire. And it's just kind of like this, this buzz of negativity that goes on inside of us. And it's just such a waste of your beauty, a waste of your productivity, a waste of your contribution, a waste of your own peace. I don't care how you act towards others or like what you'd show up in the world. I want you to feel better inside. So we're going to be kinder to ourselves, making friends with our thoughts and feelings. So getting to know yourself, becoming a good friend to yourself, and being curious about your thoughts and your feelings. Noticing your patterns and your strategies that don't work for you anymore. So if you have a behavior like not yelling at your kids anymore, or whatever the behavior is that you don't want to do anymore, like I don't want to get angry or feel insecure and then start to criticize my husband, right? That's a pattern that I have. And I don't want to do that anymore, right? So I'm like going to take a look at that pattern and decide I don't want to criticize him anymore. So I need to get curious. I need to, be honest with myself. I'm doing it. And then I need to listen and figure out, why am I doing that? And then I want to make small changes. So these are our goals. Be kinder to yourself, make friends with your thoughts and feelings, notice your patterns and strategies that don't work for you anymore, and make small changes that influence those patterns. And that's what we're doing in this How to Heal series, is we're healing your relationship with yourself so that you can shift and change and become more whole. Right? Healing is really the process of something is wounded and it gets healed. Today, we're talking about radical listening. So the core sentence or the main mantra of this topic is, I will listen to my needs and wants and see those as valid and important. I will listen to my intuition and trust my inner wisdom. That's what I'm hoping for you by listening to this episode, that you will learn how to listen more carefully to yourself. Notice your needs, notice your wants, notice your patterns. Validate yourself. See your needs as important. Listen to yourself. Trust your intuition. Trust your inner wisdom. So the goal of radical listening is really, like I said, to build a better relationship with yourself. By yourself, I mean your essential self, your core self. That thing I talked about in Radical Self-Love, the essential being inside of you. Martha Beck says, your true nature, the part of you that always remembers what it is meant to be and never stops trying to be what it is, no matter what happens to her. Your birthright is to feel peace and joy and gratitude and love. And in your core, you carry all of that. We want to tap into that and help you live more and more deeply in your inner wisdom, in your inner self. So the goal, if the radical listening, is to find your inner guidance, to move away from the patterns that you've created to protect you from pain or sabotage you from getting what you want. Because we all have these patterns of behavior. And looking at those patterns, either of how we act, how we think, or how we feel, those are these patterns we have. So we need to look at them and see, okay, are these patterns that I have, are they coming from a way to avoid pain? Are they protecting me from pain or sabotage a moment because maybe we don't think we're worthy of feeling freedom and love and peace and joy and all of those things? I want you to move closer to that authentic self, that core self, the one that feels peace no matter what's happening, because the closer you are to your essential self, the more content you will feel. So all we're doing in this episode is we're tapping in to you and learning about you from that loving place, from that safe place. And when you're loved and safe, you can be honest. So you're kind of having this conversation about your thoughts and feelings, and you're talking to yourself. So you're being honest, you're revealing things, and then you're listening to what is revealed and asking really good questions and getting really curious, because your goal is to get to know yourself, your core self. So that's what today really is, looking for patterns. Who are you listening to? If you're in this conversation, right? Your core self is listening to who? I love the work of Dick Schwartz, who wrote the book No Bad Parts. He's the founder of Internal Family Systems. It's a funny name because you think it's about family dynamics, like your parents and your siblings, but actually it's your family system within yourself. So he has these different ways that he describes the parts that are living within ourselves. The first one I want to talk about is your inner child. You've heard this phrase before. Essentially, I want to think about it in terms of childhood wounds, childhood patterns that got established that maybe were really, really important to you back when you were a kid, but maybe aren't as necessary now. So he says, when you were young, you experienced traumas or attachment injuries, you were like a child, so you didn't know how to protect yourself or what to do about it. And so you might have, created patterns to protect yourself or to soothe yourself in childhood that you no longer need. An example of this in my life is that because my mom was clinically depressed and untreated, she did not take any medication. She wasn't even not diagnosed until I was 18 years old. But the depression kept her really like on the couch, not doing things. She also, I'm pretty sure, had ADHD. And so she really didn't have a lot of order. So like the dishes weren't done, the laundry wasn't done, school paperwork wasn't filled out. She had this like basket where you could put things, we were really poor. So things that were like torn or buttons that were off, you would put them in the basket, and then I think conceptually she would fix them and then give them back to us, but they never got fixed. And so I would just put my clothes in this little basket and I would never see them again. Also, just she was irresponsible with money, with decisions, with time. There was a lot of times where I felt like there were no grown-ups in the room. So I overgrown up. I became uber responsible, uber organized, overthinking, ruminating, planning, really trying to make sure that every I was dotted and every T was crossed. And I took that into my adult life and was like really tight with the schedule with the kids, or when plans changed and I felt very overwhelmed. I didn't know how to pivot. I didn't know how to feel ease. I didn't know if something was going wrong. It really activated my nervous system because I was like, oh my God, there's no grown-ups here and no one's going to help. And I would feel very overwhelmed and very triggered very easily. That hypervigilance, that dysregulated nervous system, those are patterns from childhood that I needed then because honestly, there was no one paying attention to me. But now I'm an adult and I get to pay attention to me. I have to teach that inner child, that pattern of hypervigilance, overthinking, overplanning, overstructuring, and then getting easily dysregulated when things weren't going to my plan. I have to teach her, hey girl, you're safe. I'm here. The grown-ups are here. You are a grown-up. You're okay. And that has become really, really important for me. So Dick Schwartz really talks about how sometimes we get put into a parentified place and then we carry that intense burden of responsibility. So that's true for me. So for some people, you may have been conditioned in childhood that you don't matter. Your needs aren't important. Children are better seen than heard, right? And you might not have felt listened to or validated, or you might have been told that you were a problem, that you were dumb, that you were ugly, that you were mean, that you were selfish, that you were entitled. Now you have a negative self-concept. Maybe you were told you only matters what you look like or how you perform. And you're disconnected from your authentic, essential self because you think you have to perform or look a certain way in order to be loved and valued and accepted. So sometimes our need for attachment, our need for security isn't met as a child, so we don't feel safe. That was primarily true for me. And then sometimes our need for authenticity, our need to be validated for who we are at our core isn't acknowledged or given to us as children. And so our wounds are often based on attachment or authenticity. So you're looking for these patterns that maybe came from your childhood and you're wanting to listen. Now I want you to think about what could have been my wounds as a child. Was I parentified? Was I taught that my needs weren't important? Was I taught that my value was based on how I looked or what I did or how I performed, my grades, how I did in sports, how nice I was to everybody in the room, right? Was I given a negative self-concept? Somewhere along the way, did I decide or did I hear enough times that I was dumb, ugly, mean, a problem, selfish, entitled, lazy, rude? What did you hear? What were the messages that you heard in childhood? Maybe you are acting from those messages. Maybe we need to look at those messages and examine them. Are you dumb? What's the evidence of that? What are you basing that thought and that belief system on today? and we want to examine it. So we kind of have to look at it. We have to listen to the answers. So you're listening for your inner child. I also think sometimes it's not wounds from childhood. Sometimes our pain is wounds from culture. It could be wounds from religion. It could be wounds from materialism and consumerism in our society. It could be from racism. It could be from sexism. It could be from a variety of social problems that exist that make it hard for us to feel safe and feel free and feel loved. And when we then look at our patterns, we can see that we have protectors, parts that prevent pain. Sometimes I call that the fix-it energy. They keep us safe, they keep us stable, they avoid chaos. Unless chaos feels safe, and then they create chaos. We have these protectors that are really kind of in the fix-it energy, trying to like manage the narrative and manage the moment and perform. Then we also have the fuck-its, which are the parts of us that deal with the emergencies, and we give up all of those other strategies and we're like, fuck it, I'm just going to eat. Fuck it, I'm just going to ignore my kids. Fuck it, I'm just going to watch TV all day. Whatever. I'm not judging those behaviors, but I am saying that we have kind of this fix-it energy sometimes, and then we have this fuck-it energy sometimes. And you want to just look at like, wow, am I in a hyper-controlling, hyper-productive way? Or am I in a chaotic, overwhelmed, give up, give in space? I don't know for you, but for me, I kind of vacillate. Usually I stay in fix-it energy. That's kind of the way my pain shows up. But there's times when I get so overwhelmed that I go into fuck it. And I'm just like, forget it. I don't even care anymore. And then I sabotage all of the work that I've done. And I think that comes back to like core woundedness of feeling unsafe and unlovable. Whew, a lot going on in this episode. So we're listening to our inner child. We're listening to our pain. We're listening to our essential self. So this is where it gets fun and yummy and good. You have a bunch of dreams and goals and wishes, and they need to be heard, right? If you think about a seed that is planted, right, you already have a bunch of beautiful seeds that are inside your core self, things that want to be expressed, things that want to be shown, things that make you super happy, ways that you feel joy, ways that you feel purpose, ways that you feel love, ways you express love. You already have all that in you. And what we want to start doing is listening to her and figuring out how she can feel more safe to express those parts of her. I remember one time, a long time ago, actually, I was doing like goal work. This was when the kids were little. And I remember thinking my goal was to consider learning how to knit. I didn't want to make a goal of learning how to knit because I wasn't sure if I would even like it. So I made a goal to figure out if I would like it, because I didn't want to put that fix-it energy, like here's my goal and and then go fuck it, I don't care. And I didn't want to do that. I was like, I'm just going to be curious. What do I like? So that's what we're trying to find, is like your essential self has all these seeds inside of her, these dreams and these goals. Now, sometimes seeds, if you think about a garden, a seed can get buried too deep and it doesn't receive any of the light that it needs to sprout and grow. And I know this is true because I tried to garden. I've dabbled in that and I've decided I don't like it and I'm not going to try anymore. So there's that. I do grow strawberries and blueberries, but berries do their own thing. Though I did like the whole garden box and tried all the things and just realized like it's too frustrating to me, pretty much. But in the process, I was sprouting seeds. And if you sprout a seed and you push it too far down, it won't actually shoot up through the soil because it needs the light to grow. And if it's too far down, it doesn't get the light. So sometimes our seeds of our essential self are buried. We're trying to listen to those and figure out how to get those to the light, bring them up a little bit closer to the surface so that we can cultivate them. Some of you already know your goals and dreams, and you just haven't put enough fertilizer, enough water, you haven't given enough sunshine, you've hidden it. And I want to help you discover those goals and dreams and then find out how to actualize them. So we're listening to our inner child, we're listening to our pain, we're listening to our essential self, and sometimes we're listening to a future you. So I like to do this exercise a lot where I imagine myself in the future, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or 1 year from now, or on my 50th birthday. And I think about, how do I want to feel? What do I want to be doing? What do I want my habits to look like? What patterns do I want to have healed from? And I don't need to know how I get there. I just kind of want to know what I want. What is it that I want? In a perfect unicorn magic wand world, what would I create? So we're listening to our pain and we're listening to our future. So we're listening to our past self that got hurt and that has protection. And then we're listening to our future self and what she wants and who she's becoming, all in line with our core essential self. So that's who you're listening to. Why should you even do this, right? It's because you can't get to know someone if you don't pay attention to them, listening to them, finding out what's going on. You're in a relationship with yourself. And it can be a very beautiful relationship. It doesn't need to be a toxic relationship. I think that if you were in a relationship with someone who treated you like you treat you, you would probably break up with them. And some of you try to break up with yourself by avoiding your pain, not taking a look at it, hating yourself. Let's not do that anymore. Instead, let's be loving and kind and get to know ourselves and then grow into who we want to become. Okay, so how do we do it? How do you listen? The first is just paying attention. It's going back to that honesty thing. It's like taking a look at yourself and noticing, being aware. There's a lot of things in self-help and in healing and in psychology that are all around awareness. It's like one of the benefits of meditation is you become aware of your thoughts and of your patterns, right? Because you're trying to be still and be present in the moment, and then you notice your monkey mind and it moves all around. Just paying attention, but you can't do it, like I said, if you don't love yourself and if you don't feel safe. What are you looking at? You're looking at stuff you don't like, maybe stuff you don't like, the way you're being treated, the way your kids are behaving, the way that your spouse is behaving, the way your boss is behaving, the way your community treats you, or the way that you're acting, the way that you're thinking, the way that you're feeling. Just noticing if something doesn't feel good or right to you, we don't need to figure it all out, but we need to get curious about it. So you're paying attention to yourself. You're like, that didn't feel good. I'm going to think about that. I'm going to explore that a little bit. So we're noticing what we don't like. We're noticing our pain. And then we're noticing what we do like. We're noticing our delight. We're noticing what we love. Paying attention. When do you feel joy? When do you feeling of lightness inside of yourself? When do you feel just present and content? When do you feel happy? When do you feel purposeful? When do you feel like you have meaning? What are your favorite things to do? Think about taking yourself out on a third date. Like you would want to get to know, hey, what makes this person tick? That's what you're paying attention to. And you're being very curious. So we're paying attention, we're being curious, just truly like wanting to get to know yourself. And then looking for patterns, looking for the thoughts that hold you back. Look at the behaviors that are blocking you from getting what you want or helping you avoid pain. Looking at the feelings that you have in any given situation. Are you overwhelmed? Are you frustrated? Are you rageful? Are you hurt? Do you feel lonely? Do you feel sad? When you are looking at how you think and feel and act, you will start to notice those patterns and you can start to get curious about those patterns. So some patterns that you might be noticing, making promises to yourself and breaking them, feeling out of control, having extreme reactions, like that mad mama syndrome, feeling disconnected or distracted, not feeling present, noticing that mean inner critic, that inner monologue, doing a lot of people pleasing, difficulty tuning into your own needs or not feeling entitled to take care of yourself. Very difficult for moms. Having trouble expressing what you want, feeling overwhelmed and stressed and unable to cope with feelings, buffering behaviors that avoid that pain. One of the ways that I'm exploring buffering right now is I've done a shopping ban particularly for clothes, because I noticed that one of the ways that I protect myself or avoid pain is by buying things to put on my body, almost like a shield, or to say I belong, to say I'm safe, to say I matter. And I want to explore not doing that, not buying those clothes, and finding out if I can find the feeling of belonging and safety and worthiness without adding anything extra. So buffering is when we do things to avoid pain or do things to get a feeling. It's not necessarily bad, but you want to get curious. Do I need this pattern? Also notice that you have jealousy or insecurity in relationships. I think whenever I'm jealous of someone, instead of judging myself or making them wrong, like, oh, well, she's a bitch anyways, I don't know, thinking negative thoughts about that person, I get curious and I'm like, why do I want what I perceive them to have? What is the feeling that I think they have that I don't have? What is the essential need that I see in them that I wish I had? Then I look and I say, do I already have that? Or can I get that in another way? Jealousy and envy are interesting patterns because they help reveal something that you want, not the thing, not the money or the funny husband or the beautiful house or the pretty hair, not those things, but you are looking at what you make those things mean that that person has that you don't have. And you get curious about them. So looking at your jealousy and your insecurity, and that's a pattern. Asking for advice. Some people crowdsource every decision. And if you're doing that, that means that you don't feel safe. You don't trust your wisdom. I'm not saying don't ask for advice. I just think, sometimes you can see if it's a pattern where you're constantly asking many, many people for advice, or there's just one person you feel like you can't make a decision until you talk to them. That might be something to get curious about. All of these patterns are not necessarily wrong. We're not judging the pattern. We're being honest about it. We're being nice to ourselves. We're trusting ourselves. If we're doing the pattern to protect or soothe or prevent pain, great, good job. I'm glad you found a pattern that works for you. Now we have to ask, is there another way you can get that need met? Is there a way we can heal that pain so that you don't need this pattern anymore? That's what we're doing. We're being really curious. And from that foundation of love and honesty and trust. So this process that you're going through, right, is curious. And then you're practicing compassionate listening. So first we're curious, just finding out what the heck is going on, being really honest, really curious, listening, what is going on. Then we practice compassionate listening. I love the concept of compassionate listening. It's listening with unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, and deep, profound curiosity. So when you are listening to yourself, we have that foundation of love, that foundation of trust. Now we're going to get really curious. We're going to ask really, really good questions. The process of listening, right, is we're being curious, we're being compassionate, we're listening really closely, and then we're asking really good questions. I find that it's really important for me to journal these questions and these answers to explore myself, because I can't do that reflective listening and ask the next question unless I'm doing a journal entry for me. But I do find that I can do this sometimes with a very good listener who asks me really good questions. So my best friend Tiffany does this. I have some dear friends, my friend Kristen, all the Kristens in my life. Kevin will do this sometimes. He's not great at asking good questions, but he's really good at letting me process my own questions with him. So I find that I have found a few people who let me do this. Some people, and I think I used to do this, I did this in prayer. So I was like, having a conversation with God and letting sort of the God within, but I didn't think of it that way. I thought of like literally God asking me these questions. And so if you have like a spiritual practice, you can do it with that, like imagining that the divine being that you worship or that you follow is asking you these questions, if that makes sense. So what are these good questions? Okay. First, I like to just start with a circumstance, like what happened? What are you bothered by? Like, I buy a lot of clothes, or I really hate gardening, or I really wish I could garden, or I'm so jealous that my friend has a job and I don't have one, or I really wish that I had more money, or man, I really don't like that my kid is being so, saying I hate you, or I really don't like that I took this thing out on my husband. Whatever the thing is that's going on, kind of narrating that. So we kind of start with like, what the heck are you even talking about? And then what are my thoughts about it? What do I think about this circumstance? And doing like a thought dump where you just kind of free flow whatever you're thinking. For me, I broke my shopping ban this week and I was like, okay, that's how that happened. Okay, let's get curious about it. Why did I purchase that? What was I thinking? What happened? What was my reason for doing it? So I started doing the questions. What are my thoughts about it? Do I think it's wrong? Do I think it's right? How am I justifying it? What do I feel about it? What do I think about it? Then what am I making this mean? That's one of the best questions you can ask is, what am I making this behavior mean? What am I making this circumstance mean? So if it's my kid saying, I hate you, I'm thinking I'm a bad mom. I'm thinking that they're not a nice person. I'm thinking I've made a mistake parenting them. I'm thinking that they are going to become a psychopath. I'm thinking that whatever, right? We can start to be honest about what we're making that mean. What do we make it mean about ourselves? What do we make it mean about them? What do we make it about the future? What do we make it mean about the past? Also going and saying like, well, what are the facts? What is the facts about this thing? What happened? And then what is the story I'm telling about these facts? That's another way to figure out, what am I making it mean? What's the story I'm telling? So you're trying to separate the thing that happened with your thoughts about it. That's that metacognition, that cognitive behavioral therapy is really this mindset work, is recognizing your thoughts are separate from the circumstances. So we want to be like, what are we thinking? What are we feeling? How do we act when we think that way? How do we act when we feel that way? What's the behavior that I do, right? How do I treat myself? How do I treat my child? What do I do to avoid when I'm in this situation? How do I get out of this situation? What feeling am I chasing? What feeling am I avoiding? So you're just asking yourself like really, really good questions. One question I love is, why now? What's happening? Why am I showing this behavior now? And looking at a bigger narrative. Oh, it's because I've been very lonely lately. Oh, it's because I'm stressed that I'm traveling soon. It's, because my kid went to kindergarten. Like, it's because my husband lost his job, or whatever the circumstances. Start to notice, maybe there's another pattern going on in my life that's making me feel insecure, that's making me feel unsafe, that's making me feel purposeless, that's making me feel like I don't belong. Sometimes our other circumstances in our life can be triggering the behavior. So getting really curious, like, why now? What's happening? What's changed? What's coming up? So those are some questions to reflect on a situation and helping you find some ways to kind of explore what this could be. Why are you acting this way? Your best guess. That's it. You're just trying to figure out, why am I acting this way? There's no right answer. Whatever your intuition, whatever your core self answers, that's probably the answer. And if it doesn't ring true, you could just be like, okay, what else could it be? It's this relationship with yourself. Another prompt I love is asking myself that magic wand question. Like, if I could magic wand this situation, what would I do? If there were no rules, there was no restrictions, I could solve this problem immediately, what would the solution be? And asking yourself, if I could magic wand this and I could fix it, what would the fix look like? That's a really interesting question because it kind of helps you tap into some of your wisdom and some of the action steps that might need to be taken. Another one that's kind of easier is like, if I could change one thing about this, what would it be? And why would that make it better? The last question, this is a newer question for me that I've been playing with in the last year or two, is what if there's nothing wrong here? What if nothing is broken? What if I'm not broken? What if I'm not a bad person? What if I'm not a bad mom? What if I'm doing everything right? Instead of looking for problems and then finding solutions, I've been really challenging myself by the thought, hey, nothing's wrong here. What if everything is going great? How would I think and feel and act if I believed that was true? Because then you might find your wisdom is like a very small tweak or no tweak. You could just live in the peace that you think you have to work so hard for. You might not have to work so hard to get there. It could just be available to you with one small shift of believing you already have it. The thing I'm jealous of, what if I already have it? The healing I'm craving, what if I already have it? It's an idea. It's something to try out. I've been exploring it and it's been very freeing and really fun to not be in so much like, I gotta heal from this and pain from this, and just kind of like, what if I'm already good? What if it's already great? Could that be true? If it were true, what would I use for evidence to prove it? That's a very powerful question. So you can play with that one. The whole point is that you are listening to figure out how to have a better relationship with yourself. You are becoming the best friend that you've always longed for, the intimate partner that you've always dreamed about, the deep relationship with love and acceptance and safety, the perfect parent that you wish you would have had. All of those dreams for relationships, that's what you're creating within yourself. That's who you are becoming for you. And I promise that she is unstoppable. The essential self in you is completely capable of getting you all of the joy and peace and love and hope and gratitude and purpose and meaning and safety and everything that your heart desires. You already have everything in you to create that. All you have to do is discover it through radical listening. All right, Mama, I really appreciate you listening to this episode. I'd love to hear your feedback. Please either reach out to get a complimentary consultation with me. You can book right on my website, or you can DM me on Instagram. You can reply to an email. Just let me know your thoughts, your feelings, your reflections, what you're struggling with, what you love. Also, if you want to do comments on Spotify or comments on anywhere you listen to your podcast, that's also super cool. I'll interact with you there too. So, love you so much. I think you are incredible, and I will talk to you next week. Hey Mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do two things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that, again, at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.